Welcome to Paranormal Heroics with your host, Hero Brown.
Welcome back to Paranormal Heroics. I'm your host, Hero Brown. On tonight's episode, we are going to deep dive into something very near and dear to my heart. We are going to look back at the history of my own paranormal activity. Even before that, we're going to deep dive into the house that I had the vast majority of all my experiences, and we're going to take an even further look back at what used to go on there before I was even born. You will hear tonight some different way that we do the interview process. We recorded the whole interview. This way we do not fall under, the digital burps as we did during our last episode. So we will be live right after the interview process to answer and talk with you all, answer any questions that you guys might have. I will be in the live chat to talk with everybody as the interview is going on. So I am very, very much looking forward to see what everyone thinks about this. So without further ado, we are going to jump right into the interview, and I hope you guys all enjoy it. So coming to you today on guest number 2 on Paranormal Heroics is my very own Mama. Mama, please introduce yourself, and then, let's fall right into your very first paranormal experience.
Like you said, I'm his Mama. My name is Carla, so whatever you want to call me. I am a strong believer in ghosts and spirits, and grew up in a house, in a big white house, that we saw things a lot. We heard noises. Right into the story, I always remember my mom telling me stories when they first moved in. My dad was a smoker, and they used to have ashtrays that were, I don't know if you know this, Matthew, but they used to have ashtrays that were like bean bags underneath. So my mom would put them in the living room where my dad would always sit to smoke. She'd go in the kitchen and do her thing, whatever she's doing, go back to the living room, and the ashtray would be in the middle part with the dining area. And she would be like, what the heck? And she would be home alone. I mean, it'd be us kids there, but I don't even think I was born yet. Just my brother was born. He was like a year old. So she'd get the ashtray, put it back. At first, she thought my dad was doing that. So she was getting irritated with my dad. And then it started happening when she was home alone. So that was like some of the first stories we've heard.
So, and again, real quick, this is the house I also grew up in. This is a Victorian style 2-story house. As you can see in like a lot of when was the house built?
The house was built, I'm just going to say that, the house was actually built in the 1900s. When you look at the blueprint of the house, it was a 1-story. So we have no idea when the 2nd story was built. So we don't know if that has something to do with spirits on there. The basement was an unfinished basement. It was just cement. I hear like sometimes the spirits could enter through like stuff like that, like because it was like there was like a tunnel where the heater was and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty scary down there.
Right. From my own memory, it looked like at one time before we got a furnace in there, like it was almost like a coal operated heated system. Yeah. Or no? Right. Okay. And
the heater, all I remember is always how it was there, but that area was always so cold, and I don't know if it was because it was all cement.
Right.
And then the walls were like rock, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I just remember it being like a hole in the ground.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it was.
A
storage unit, pretty much is what we used it for. So.
Right.
But yeah, so those were like the first things.
Did anybody own the house before?
Yeah.
What I'm going to say too for a lot of people is my grandma and grandpa. Real quick, I call them my Nani and Pompo. Nani is something my oldest cousin started, and all us kids just followed suit. So when I say Nani, or my mom says Nani, that means my grandma, and obviously Pompo is just grandpa. So that is just a little information about us. So were Nani and Pompo, were they the first ones to own the house, or did somebody else own it?
No, someone else had owned it.
Okay.
Before them, yeah. And then and all the cousins called it the White House because it was big, and that's the only way we do it was as a 2-story house, with the big windows, pretty decent sized porch. But let's see. Sorry, I started thinking about all these things. When I was young, my first experience, I remember all the cousins would get together, and we were going upstairs, and all our parents, they'd be visiting. All the aunts and uncles are coming over, and they'd be visiting. Well, we went up the stairs, and there was a shadow of a man sitting on this trunk that my mom would keep pictures in, and we were like, and we'd all stopped because we knew there was nobody upstairs because everybody was downstairs, and why would they be upstairs by themselves? So we all stopped, and to this day I can still see the man's shadow. Have no idea who it was, so it freaked us out. So we ran downstairs, and we all ran to the front room. Well, of course, back then you didn't sit with your parents while they were visiting you, so you either go upstairs or you go outside. So we went outside. And of course,
what time of day was this?
Well, this was at night. This was like maybe about 7, 8 o'clock at night. Could be, about 7 or 8.
In the summer, winter?
Summertime.
Okay, so still a little light outside, but sun's going down.
But upstairs with that first room only had the one window that faced the backyard. So you didn't get no lights till you turned on the lights. So it was just a light beaming from one of the other rooms that we could see. And I mean, it wasn't super dark. It was, but it was, in between, I guess. But yeah, so we went out back. My dad, which had doors at that time, and it made out of metal. So we're sitting there, we're talking about the man we saw. Well, we look at the garage, and there was the shadow again standing by the garage. And at first I was like, I ain't saying nothing because I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me. I was little. But I kept thinking about the one upstairs, and then somebody else seen it. Now, mind you, a block away from my mom and dad's house, there's a funeral home.
Right.
So we were like, the spirits are coming from the funeral home. When you're kids, you're thinking it's a crazy thing.
And I'm not sure if you said this before, but I don't remember. So how old were you?
I was probably about 7, I'm thinking. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so... That's the only one that really stands out to me, and then of course as we got older, there's more things that start happening. we always saw shadows. We always heard noises. You would hear kind of like, like I watched Ghost Hunters, and you would hear like a banging on the heater, and you would hit like someone was banging it, and I would sit there and I would be like, they want me to go look downstairs, but I ain't gonna go look.
And with Ghost Hunters, me and Ray, we used to go to your house I think it was every Wednesday it was on. We used to go over there and watch it. So, and this helped us out learn a lot of, debunk tools.
Debunking.
So, obviously, the banging and stuff could have been, the heating of the unit,
That's what I would think, like, especially since it was a old heater.
Right.
But when we would go over there, it would totally stop. You wouldn't hear it. And it would only be like once in a while you would hear it. It wasn't like something you would hear every night or anything like that. So.
Still strange.
It was still,
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it is. It's just, trying to put logic behind it, right? Because that's the biggest thing is you want to see if you can recreate it just to know. And that's what, we learned.
And back then we didn't know these things.
Of course. Of course not.
Took it. We just took it as it was scary.
Exactly.
So then, as we got older, you get used to it. And I think that's one thing is with spirits is when you live with them for so long, you kind of grow together, you accept each other, and, so they live how they're living, we live how we're living. Well, my brother ended up moving across the street, and in that house, there was a certain place in the house that they would hear a creak when somebody would walk in the house. So they'd go upstairs, and there would be nobody there. So we named the ghost Andy. So we always came from Andy the ghost, because Andy was a name that was in the backyard, that was in the cement, that we never knew any Andy living there. So my brother, he started, he moved across the street, and there was a certain place in their house that you would step on, and it would creak. And they would be downstairs, and they'd hear that creak, so my brother would run back upstairs and go look, and there won't be nobody there. So after a while, it's kind of a joke. He would pretend like he's holding a little boy's hand, and he'd, come on, Andy, you're going back to Nani's house. And he'd walk across the street to my mom's house, and I swear, and when he would do that, we would start hearing noises in our house. And my mom would be like, no, Andy, you can't be here. We don't want Andy here. She would get so mad at my brother for doing that. Because you would, like I said, ashtrays would get through. My cousin was reading the Amityville Horror, the book.
Okay. I didn't know it was a book before a movie.
Yeah, it was a book before a movie. Or it might have been at the same time. Who knows? But that book disappeared. She had spent the night. We could not find it. We could not find that book anywhere. So, she was like, oh, I guess it wasn't meant for me to read. I don't know what happened. We thought, somebody threw it away. So, a year later, okay, my mom is cleaning out. She had this long pantry that kept all the canned goods and flour and all that. All the way at the back, which is under the stairs, she found the book. A year later, and she's cleaned out that pantry dozens of times throughout the year because buying new canned goods and everything.
Right.
And I told my cousin, we found your book, and I told her how we found it in the back of that closet, and she was like, I don't want it back. Because all the cousins knew about the ghost in my mom's house, so so everybody was scared of it. So she's like, I don't want it back. I'm not going to read it now.
and kind of diving in, into our family and everything. You grew up with a family of 6, 3 boys, 3 girls.
Right.
And so aging differences, you guys are about 10 years apart on some of them?
So, from the oldest, she is about 13 years older than me.
Okay.
I'm the second to the youngest, and then my youngest brother is 13 years younger than me. So that's like 20.
Right. So,
26 years.
And especially back then, it's just, a big gap compared to, a lot of people today.
Right.
I mean,
we're about, one each year. The first 3 are born a year apart.
Right.
And then my brother was 3, and girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. Then the brother that's older than me, he's 2 years older than me, but he's 5 years younger than the next sibling.
One in line. Okay.
So that was just, yeah. So, and then my baby brother came when I was going to turn a month before I turned 13. So,
Which
so
that's the uncle I talk about a lot too in my story. He was a lot like my big brother. Because he was, how old was he when I was born? He was around 13 himself.
Yeah, probably.
Give or take.
I was thinking he was born in like, I'm trying to remember what year he was born, because
just after the dinosaurs that were extinct, right?
Right.
I hope he watches this. But okay. So I just wanted to make sure, dive in.
78 is what I want to say.
Okay.
Around there.
So, oh man, maybe we were
1978, 1900s.
1900s. I know. My middle child, she likes to point that out. You guys were born in the 1900s. It's like, thanks. And then it's getting hard now too, because like when you have to put your birthday in for information on the internet, you gotta have to scroll to get to your year now. It's like, wow, this is horrible. Okay, back on subject, on the tangent. So, Andy the Ghost, we're flying through the years now. So about how old were you when the whole Andy the Ghost thing was going on?
I was about, I would say about 14 when he first moved in there. So yeah, it was quite a years. And then, like a lot of things happened, which of course, as right. I'm getting older, I don't remember as much, so I'll probably backtrack later.
Of course.
But yeah, I was about 14 when that started, and it was crazy. That, like I said, you would hear noises at the house. Now let me tell you something about that house. My brother moved out.
This is the house across the street.
Across the street. Right. So it's that whole street. Right. So across the street, when my brother moved out, my sister used to get mail there. So she had run to go check the mail, and we kind of keep up the house till it got sold. So my sister was checking on her mail, and she heard like a little boy crying. So she thought, oh my God, one of the kids got stuck in the house, because we always check on it and made sure nobody was breaking in or anything. So she ran downstairs, and downstairs there's this old cedar closet. She could hear the crying behind the door of the cedar closet. So she opened the door, and it was nobody. Nothing. And she said she did feel like cold air, too.
Of course.
And she was like, what the heck? So she started looking around. She was like, maybe it didn't come from there. It had to be someplace else. So, yeah, it was the basement was all modeled. So it was a living room, a bedroom.
Right. It's fully furnished. It was fully finished, I should say.
There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Fully finished. So she looked all around. Nope. So went back upstairs, and she's like, I know I heard somebody crying. So she went through the bedrooms, upstairs, the closet, nobody. And she said, I'm never going in that house. She would go in, check the mail, and run back out, because it was crazy, because she heard it plain as day,
Right. That complete goosebumps. Oh my goodness. I don't remember the story at all.
So going with that, like I said, my brother was 13 years younger. As I got older, I loved his stories. He has the best stories. That's the one he said, like your uncle, that will talk about a lot, because he has probably a lot more experience than I do. But he would move the bed a certain way, and he would see a man, a lady, and a child walk by. He'd move the bed back to the way it was, and he wouldn't see it. And so he would think, oh, it's just me dreaming. So he'd wait a while, change it back. Nope, there he would be. The three of them. And it was always crazy, because there was a man, a woman, and a child. So I always wanted to check the history of the house and see maybe they died there. And
right.
Maybe that's what we've seen. And maybe he was a smoker. That's why he moved the ashtray around, or he needed it. Yeah. And
that's something I'll definitely look up. And if I find anything, I'll post it after this.
Okay.
Yeah. But so he was around what age when he was experiencing that?
Now that age, he was, I would say between 12 and 15, and then because it happened throughout years. It wasn't just like a one-time situation. It happened once he started spending the night upstairs, and we weren't there.
Right.
I lived with my mom. We all lived with my mom and dad. We everybody moved in and out all the time. So then he, like he said, he had the most experience, that had the more effect on everybody. Was then we have land, so we all went camping. on our land, and he stayed home for some reason, which just being a teenager, you want to hang out with his friends. So he happened to stay home. So his friend drives up to pick him up, and he was upstairs, of course. So he stuck his head out, and he told him, "I'll be right down. I'm coming down." Gets his stuff ready to go hang out with his buddies. Goes outside, and his friend's like, "Well, who's here? Who's here with you? You gonna leave him alone?" And my brother's like, "No, I'm by myself." And he was like, "No, Matthew or the kids were with you." And he's like, "No, I was alone." And he goes, "I saw them stick their head out and wave at me." And my brother goes, "All alone." So he gets him down and searches the house, shows him there's nobody in this house. That kid would never go back to my mom's house.
So that is definitely one story I remember, because I want to say you said I was just an infant still, so maybe one,
right.
Or so it obviously couldn't be me. My cousins, my two older cousins.
So you were about let's see, because how much younger are you than my 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, so my would have been around 6, and you were about 3.
3.
So that's
okay.
why he was worried about it would be you, because
right.
he thought he left you behind when he was a little.
Right. And so, this is, and then, having Uncle kind of telling me the story not too long ago back, the way he described it, it was like a kid sticking his head out of the window and waving back. It wasn't just at the window surface, kind of with a slight wave. There was, depth.
Like a whole body.
A whole depth to it.
Which is really crazy, because you never hear that. You
right.
only see people, when you hear ghost stories, they saw him in the door.
Right.
He saw the whole body and the whole head stick out.
Right.
That's why it really scared him, because you can't say it was a reflection, it was lighting, which was that reflection off of headlights.
Was going to be the next question I asked you, because in my head, I always figured this was at night, so this is in the middle of the day. And the biggest thing on most ghost stories, sorry, I had a burp there, and of course 99% of the time it's never nothing real, it's never nothing cool. It's
right.
either somebody trying to play a gimmick on you, a work of the lighting. But what I really believe, when people see real ghosts, they don't realize they're seeing real ghosts, because they're, manifesting their whole image, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, at least that's how I feel about it and everything. Because,
right.
There's times you'll see the person there, and then they look away and that person's gone. That's the ones that, I know I saw somebody here. And you don't trigger it as in, I just saw a ghost. I was
right.
no, I saw somebody right here.
I saw somebody walk by, or I saw...
Right.
And that's what I loved about this house, though, is because it wasn't like most ghost stories happen at night, it happens around midnight. Not this house. This house happened during the day.
Right.
Even the little boy across the street, when my brother would cross the street with it, that was during the daytime.
Right.
It wasn't at night. It was right in the middle of the afternoon when he'd be walking across the street, and we would watch him because we had the big window in the front. So we see him walking, holding somebody's hand, and my mom would open the door. No, I don't know.
That is so funny.
That's what's great about it. It's because it wasn't a mean spirit.
Right.
That's my best way to say it. It wasn't like an evil spirit that came to bug us or anything. It was some spirits that were maybe the residuals. They kept these things happening, but it was weird because it wasn't the same thing every time. It was like they were living as a ghost in the house.
Right.
And that's why I say I'm a true believer, because I grew up with it.
Right. And seeing or experiencing the little amount that I did, but it was just so real that it was like, wait a minute. I'm by myself, and I'll get more into my story a little more. We are going through the timeline, and now I'm entering the picture and stuff. So what else? Let's. I know that's not the only friend. I know it was multiple friends and other people
right.
and stuff there. Anything else that you can
and
think
like
of?
I said, all my cousins, they would say, they didn't like being there at night, and they wouldn't be home alone, and nobody wanted to be alone in the house at night because they were so scared. you know.
Right.
So another time, when you were a baby, we were. I don't remember what had happened. I went next door. I lived next door to my mom at that time, and I walked in the house to go. We heard a noise or we saw a light. I don't remember exactly what happened, but so it was at night. So we go in the house to go check. You know, I had a little weenie dog, and my husband thinks he's tough, so he's walking with a bat. I'm walking in front. It's the dog, and then it was me, and it was my husband. Okay, and we're walking like Scooby Doo walks, walking all slow to the house. And the dog takes off barking out in the backyard, and we're like, oh crap, she left us. So we walk in the house and we open the door, and there used to be a door that would cover where the stairway is, and we heard that slam. My husband took off out the porch, and I was like, oh, if somebody's here, we gotta check it. So I tell him, give me the bat. So I go back. So then he had to follow me because he has to be tough, you know. And we looked in the house and we didn't see nothing, but we did hear the doors close. And I thought, you know, when you open and close the door, that gust of wind going through the house.
The
might
pressure.
Have been what it is.
Right, the pressure of it.
But I never heard it again, so I don't know.
What house was this? This is the house we lived in next door?
No, that was at Monty's house.
Oh, okay.
My house. We happened to.
Oh, okay.
Next door,
so the back door going to the basement. Okay, I got you now.
No. The door. There was a door that covered where the staircase is to go upstairs.
Oh, really? I guess that was always been. I'm not sure. I don't remember. That was too long ago. And you know they might have taken that door down before you remember. Yeah.
But we had a door there for a while.
Oh.
And then.
To just have another day in that house. Like, of course, when in the middle, you know, we have a very large Latino family, the typical Latino. There's six siblings that you had. Everybody had at least 2 to 4 kids.
Right.
Well, I guess you had the most amount, huh?
Yeah, I had the 4.
You had the 4.
Peggy had 2, Tina has 2, and Joey had 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, I mean, that's just the immediate family. And that's not counting all the cousins that we always had coming over with our aunts and uncles. You know, I remember that house always had life in it. You know. Right.
It was always lively. You know, my mom, she always cooked. She made sure everybody always had something to eat. You know, they had the joke that, you know, she would make one package of ramen noodles for 6 kids, you know, and everybody ate, everybody was happy.
Everybody was full when they left, so.
When they left. But she made sure everybody ate, you know, even if she gave up her food herself, you know, so that's just the way you brought up as a Latino family. You know?
And then just even saying that, like, the amount of friends that we always had come over, too. I can't even remember everybody. You know, there's names that you drop off, especially with Uncle, you're naming like the list of friends that he had. I'm like, God, I haven't heard those names in forever. Like, I forgot on how many people were just constantly there.
Yeah, and he did have a friend named Andy after a while, but we already had Andy the ghost before that. So.
Exactly.
And Andy probably could have. He had a bunch of stories, which we probably could ask Uncle Greg for his stories. So, he was always at the house. So
yeah, because he basically lived there too. So, because he just lived down the block, and
around the corner, and
And so I always remember him, you know, until pretty much I got to high school. That's like he kind of disappeared because, you know, he was an adult by then and he was doing his own thing.
Right.
But like, it's just you retelling me some of these stories now that we're getting later is like, you know, triggering the things in the moments.
Triggering memories.
Then you were telling other people about it, and I'll be listening like, did that happen? Are they messing? You know? And then I'd go tell my friends, I got a ghost in this house. His name's Andy. You know, he's cool. He does whatever he wants. And then eventually, friends coming over. If you remember Caleb first, I remember the first time he was going to sleep over, but then uncle would kind of tell me, and he freaked him out. He's like, "Nah, I'm going home. I ain't staying here." And that house just, when it did get dark, the whole atmosphere changed. As soon as it got quiet,
Right.
You'd hear the house shift and creak and stuff. Just like you said before, we understood how houses breathe because from the wood and the metal and everything.
And it's older. Like I said, it was born in 1900, exactly 1900.
Right.
So it was an older home by the time we got here. My mom and dad moved in 1964.
Okay.
So they actually moved in before I was born, and they had a lot of things happen before I was even there.
Goodness.
But you would see people walk, just like the ghost stories. You see them walk across the windows, and back to Andy. We always said the little boy. That refers to, as you think about it, I just said my brother Greg. He would see the man, the lady, and the child. So that child had to be the Andy one.
Right.
But the mom, we wouldn't hear nothing really from her. But I think she would be the one that would be maybe do dishes, or you would hear like the clanking in the kitchen and stuff.
Right.
That would probably be what she would do. But like I said, when you live there your whole life, you kind of just get used to that noise.
Kind of putting the pieces together with you there. That could have been the man you guys saw in the backyard and sitting on the case,
right.
The suitcase. And
right.
maybe be the man that we'll talk about here in a minute too, that we, now we're going into the kids part of it that we all of might have saw. So is there anything else before I start jumping in with, my experience?
Not that I can remember right now. Like I said, I might have to flash back sometimes.
And if anything happens that, just let me know and we'll dive right back into it. Okay, so it's all about me and my weirdness of growing up. So, what I remember. For a long time, we lived in the house, looking directly at the house. We lived right to the right of it, and then Nani's house, and then to the left was Auntie's house. And in the between Auntie's house and Nani's house was a big yard with a big, what was it, oak tree or cottonwood? I think it was cotton tree or something like
Probably.
that.
Yeah.
There was a small metal fence dividing the backyard and the front yard, probably, 2 feet high, 3 feet high, give or take.
Yeah, it wasn't very high, yeah.
Something that us kids used to love running and jumping over and getting our foot caught and smacking on the ground.
Right.
Like you said, the grass was always in the front and the back. Then towards the backyard, then there was another tree. We had a tire swing on. Usually that's where we did the picnics and stuff, or barbecues right there.
Yeah, that was Papa made a sand pit right there, so that's where was our barbecue area.
Right.
Remember the sand pit?
I do. I forgot about it now. I do remember it because I remember making mud patties all the time in Sunday. And then, so as soon as we step into the backyard, that was to the left. And then to the right, there was the green clothes hanger, the T that went across.
And the evergreen tree.
Then Uncle's dog house were Kilo, if I remember right. He was a black lab.
Yep.
And the coolest black lab ever. That dog was
Smart,
so loving. And he was, he reminds me so much of Cooper now I think about it. I think I might have the reincarnation of him. Because, just how much he loves. And my current dog is a German short-haired pointer with a mix of Great Parasies. I'll put a picture in right here. And so the green clothes hanger goes out, and then 2 sheds. One was the big shed, big metal shed. And what I remember in there is that's where Pompo used to gut animals, and I walked in on it one time, and it gave me nightmares.
That's so funny. I was just talking about that today.
And then just a small, regular, basic tin shed to that side. And then deeper into the backyard, like the backyard, that's where to the left was where they had their farm. Like they grew, grew small things there. And then I remember it was just a pile of bikes behind the shed. Like, that's where we built all our Frankenstein bikes to get one working one, and it would get stolen later. But so painting this big picture, and for a reason, painting this big picture. So
it was a huge yard. Let's put it that. Gotta get that across.
Right.
The way he's explaining it, it sounds like, oh my God, it's huge. It was a huge yard. That's why everybody liked to come to our house, because we had so much space. And my dad, kept the grass so green, so that way everybody came over. You could sit in the grass, you could sit in the chair. It was just that roomy, and
right.
it was beautiful.
And then that front yard tree, just going back and thinking about it, like in the summertime, it was the best tree to just take a nap under. It blocked the sun out perfectly where it wasn't too hot, and it could be like a 90, 110 degrees, whatever, but underneath that tree, you could it was perfect. It kept the temperature, just everything. I miss it so much. All right, so my first question about me is, when did I start sleepwalking? How old was I?
You were probably about like 2
when
you first started sleepwalking. But at first it would just be like little things, like you go to the kitchen and grab something to eat, or you would, like just come and lay down on the couch or the floor and stuff like that. So at first we were like, Matt, what are you doing? We weren't sure if you were just waking up and pretending like you were sleeping, because you knew you would get in trouble,
Right.
But then when you started going out the door, you were probably about 4. And that's when you started learning how to open the door and being able to walk. And you would take off, like we would get up. We would have to wake up and check on you.
This is the middle of the night. Get up and
middle of the night. Well, more like 1 o'clock in the morning. Dad would get up and like, Matthew's not in his bed. So we jump up and find you, walking to the corner.
How terrified are you with that?
It traumatized me. I still wake up in the middle of the night. You were little. And then you would start going to Nani's house. You would walk over there, and then you would wake up, and you freak out. You would start pounding on her door, which was surprising because Mom, she hardly ever locked her door. But it seemed like whenever you did do your sleepwalk, had to be the night when she would lock it.
Of course. Well, I do remember waking up in the front room and waking up on the stairway.
Yeah, because you would just. That's probably why she used to never. Back then we didn't have to lock our doors.
Right.
And then, and so the one time you started pounding. So then she's like, I just won't lock my door. Mm-hmm. And she would call us. Hey, Matthew just came over. He's asleep on the couch. He's okay.
Right.
Like, okay. And then she would lock her door after you would come in, because we didn't want you walking again outside.
Keep me caged in.
Yeah. But eventually we ended up having to put a lock on the way up, so that way we could get you to go outside. But I think you still snuck out the back door,
or through my window.
Through the windows.
Which was a high window too for a little kid.
Yeah, because the bed was right there, and you were still too small to climb out the window. So you would actually put something on the bed to climb out the window.
Right.
It's like you were always thinking, of ways to get out.
I guess, like So, from my memory, from the only, I can't say I remember every sleepwalk, but like. There's 3 I remember vividly. As I was dreaming I was awake in the middle of the day. And everybody, like, I couldn't find anybody. And I'm like, where the heck is everybody? Why is it so quiet, And so, I remember going all the way over to Nani's house, going into the front room, and then waking up in there, and like, all the daylight and everything just whoosh. And then it's just darkness. And I'm like, where am I? And then, like, kind of, as my eyes adjust and everything, I'm in Nani's house. Or same thing when waking up on the stairway at Nani's house, again, it was the middle of the day for me, from what I remember, and then waking up. And then the one that scared me the most is I was all the way towards the corner, and I want to say what was I want to say his name was Alex, the friend I had that was where they tore all the houses down. Yeah. I want to say I was going over to his house, and that's when I woke up because I fell off the curb, and then I was in the middle of the street laying down, and I wake, like, why am I outside? And that time I remember running back to the house, but I couldn't open the door because the door was locked. And I remember having to knock on you because your guys' bedroom window was right there next to the porch. And I remember having to knock on it, and I remember how mad Dad was. But go ahead. No, he's like, obviously he's not mad at me, but he's mad like, how did you get out?
Situation, yeah, because if we did, we would have to have it locked, and you would still, like I said, you'd still find a way out. But you did only sleepwalk at night. You sleepwalk during the day too, like because you've always been a sleeper. So you fall asleep, and all of a sudden you would just get up and start walking, and you'd go in the kitchen, or you would go, you go start playing with something, and then all of a sudden you would just lay down and be asleep, and we'd be like, what is he doing? And then we didn't realize it was sleepwalking until you would pass out again, and then you wake up and be like, how did I end up over here?
That is crazy. I didn't know that.
You just walked over there. Yeah. It was crazy how you would do that. And
that is absolutely wild. I mean, obviously it would make sense to sleepwalk whenever I take a nap or whatnot too. So, and then recently, my cousin Ange, she was telling me that multiple members of our family sleptwalk.
Oh.
Do you know about that?
I didn't know that.
So from Michael, Chucky, I think she said she did too, and
I think it was Greg too.
Right, and then Greg also. So yeah. and like that blew my mind. I didn't realize, I never knew they sleptwalked. Until she's the one who told me. And so this will kind of lead into the next part of this, because we kind of put 2 and 2 together. So I want to say I was around 6 years old when this happened, and it was the middle of summer, and of course playing in the front yard at Nani's house with the big tree. I'm a big Power Ranger Ninja Turtle fan, so I always had a stick with a weapon, and I loved playing outside. I'd wake up at as soon as the sun was up, I had to be out there on my adventure. And so this was towards the middle of the day, the sun blaring, and I remember seeing Uncle Greg in the backyard. And this is kind of close to the shed. Pompo's gray Ford truck was parked right there, and he was kind of right there. And he's just, and I can't say this was him, but this is who I thought it was. I remember him wearing all black. I remember, I just kind of remember seeing his eyes. That's the biggest thing I remember seeing. And he's just staring at me, and having that kind of, and this is why I thought it was Uncle Greg. My uncle has the prettiest smile. When he smiles, he just has the perfect teeth, the widest smile, and you can see him happy from so far away. And, so that's what made me to believe that was him. I remember it's like, oh, he's home, I'm going to go play with him, because whatever I'm doing is not going to be as cool as whatever I can do with him. So I ran into the backyard, and by the time I made it towards the middle of the backyard, he's even further back, right going towards the alleyway. And so I was like, oh, he's teasing me. He's playing chase. So I'm like, I'm faster. I've been practicing running, I always had to be competitive and always had to win. And so I'm running as fast as I can to get to the alleyway. And by the time I make it there, I can't find him. And I'm like looking around. So it's a big open field, because between the backyard and then the back neighbor, there's that little gap, and then that goes into the alley. And I couldn't find him, and I ran into the alley, looked both ways. I was like, where the heck did he go? And what fences were there, they're see-through, so it's not like he had much place to hide. The last thing I remember is looking straight up in the middle of the day and seeing a few falling stars. That's all I remember of that moment. And I just remember, it's like, how? I didn't know you can see falling stars in the middle of the day. And I do remember asking a few cousins, asking him, because I wanted to bring up the story to him, like, hey, do you remember me telling you this story? And this is really recent that I was asking him. And he's like, I do remember you telling me that. I was like, he's like, but I can't tell you more than what you just told me. And I'm like, okay, that's super weird, right?
Yeah.
And then as I'm telling him this story, my cousin Angel, she's like, oh, you saw the strange man. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, oh, all of us have seen the strange man. There's times where her brother like chased him in the middle of the road, and then he like just disappeared. Times uncle saw it, and so the people that she was saying everything, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I never knew you guys saw something like this, know. And as I'm talking about it and everything, because then I was even talking about the sleepwalking and everything about that, and she's then she tells me, oh, this is when I found out everybody else who slept walking. She was naming off everybody that slept walk, and I'm like, well, that's weird. That's the same list of people that you said saw the strange man. And she's like, oh, you're right. Hey, that's weird, And like she didn't put the 2 and 2 together until pointing it out. So every one of us who saw this strange man sleptwalk.
No, that's wild.
Right.
So another thing about you, when you were like 7 or 8, we were driving by the state hospital, and you're like, Mom, look at the sun. I'm like, Matthew, don't look at the sun. You're going to hurt your eyes. No, you can look at... He's like, no, you can look at it. He goes, it don't hurt your eyes. You can see the sun is spinning. And so me and Nani, of course, Nani was always with me, we're looking, and we're like, Matthew, you can't look at the sun. Because we're getting blinded by the sun. So I'm like, don't. You're gonna go blind. You don't be looking at the sun. And you're like, no, Mom, I swear I can see it spinning. And I'm like, you're crazy. So I'm like, don't look at it no more. And you're all mad in the back seat, like, God, you don't believe me, Well, the crazy thing about that was a week later, we went to go visit my uncle. He was with my Uncle Dave. He happened to go up to the St. Teresa, or Mother Teresa Cabrini up in Denver.
Uh-huh.
And they had this big old religious thing going on, while they could see the sun. And he took Polaroid pictures, and I wanted so badly to find these pictures. It looked like heaven's door, like how you see Jesus knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a picture like that. It's a Polaroid picture. There's no messing around with the Polaroid pictures, right?
So this is very early 90s, late 80s. How old was I?
Yeah, you're about 6 or 7, so
early 90s.
What, 90s? Yeah, early 90s. But you can see like angels. You can see their heads, but you can see the wings and the body, and like clouds. And it was the same day that you saw the sun spinning.
Doing whatever.
And I was like, that. Me and my mom, we're looking at each other like, that is so crazy. Because as soon as he said, that happened whatever day it was, on the Tuesday or something. And they're like, that's when Matthew said he saw the sun spinning.
Oh my goodness.
And it was this big old thing that happened in Denver at the Mother Cabrini, and you've seen it here in Pueblo.
I don't quite remember, I remember a little bit of saying that and everything. I can't say I remember the experience. I only remember the story, you telling me the story a couple of times. Yeah. And more I try to sit down and meditate on it and try to think back to it. I don't remember seeing whatever I saw in that moment. I might have been sleepwalking then.
No, it was in the middle of the afternoon, and I remember, it's so crazy because I remember we were driving right on 17th Street, right by the state hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember driving right through there, and you could see the trees, but the sun was right above us. And you could tell me it's spinning. And I'm like, what do you mean the sun's spinning? The sun don't spin,
Right.
But yeah, that's another thing about you. Which reminded me, when I was born, they said I cried before I was born. I cried while I was still in my mom's tummy. And my grandma, Grandma Guerra, said that means she's gonna be psychic. No, I'm not psychic.
Maybe psycho, but not psychic.
Tell you, yeah, I cannot tell you your future. I cannot talk to the dead, but I do hear voices. But maybe it's just me. But I can tell you, like, I remember one time we're with Uncle Charlie and Peg, and we're in Springs, and I looked at Uncle Charlie and I go, "There's gonna be a wreck right there on that corner." He's like, "Shut up." Not even 10 minutes later, there was a wreck. And he looks at me and he goes, "You scared me." I don't know why. I saw it. Or, like, we would be out partying, me and Dad, when we were young, we'd be out, having a good time. And one time we were at Auntie Peggy's and Charlie's again, and I told him we gotta go. Something bad's gonna happen, we need to go. And he knows, he knew if I had the feeling, we left.
Right.
Well, the next day we found out one of the guys died at that party.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was like, I get these feelings. Sometimes, like, if someone's in pain, I feel their pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that. Like my oldest daughter, I don't want to say her name because I don't know how she'll feel about it, but when she started getting really, really sick, and she would get these stomach pains, and she would describe everything I was feeling. And I never would tell her, but I'm like, I get her pain. And I don't know if it's because, they say mother and your kids, we have that lifeline from the umbilical cord for the 9 months, so
right.
That's why I feel everybody's pain. But I could do it, like, even with my niece. When she's
right.
feeling sick, I would tell her, "Do you feel this?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, that's how I feel." But when she feels better, I don't feel it no more. I don't go to the doctor, so
right.
So I think
it's like sympathy pains, but on another level.
Right. Exactly. And before I even know having them, So
right.
it's kind of crazy how that works. Like I said, Grandma Garrett said, "Nope, she's gonna be a special one because she cried before she was born."
Yeah, I mean,
and you don't hear that very often. There's a very few people that happens.
Right, and being psychic, I mean that is how do I say this? So there's so many gifted people, more
right.
than reading minds or predicting the future, or like it definitely just sounds like, if anything, you're just sensitive to the situation, like so. Trying to explain time, like, time's relative. We only have time as a measurement for humans to measure time, to measure a distance between when something happened to here and there. But, like, it's not a physical thing, right? So it really sounds like just in the time and space of things, you're just sensitive to know. Like,
they say everybody has it.
Of course.
You just have to really listen. And I tell everybody, like, like my boss at work, she says, I haven't seen my dad yet. And I'm like, well, listen, maybe it's on the TV. Even, your dad will say it. You ask God a question, or like I asked my mom, Mom, I don't know what I feel like eating tonight. And I could hear her tell me, "Oh, you know what sounds really good?" And she'll tell me something, Or my mom is very prejudiced. And at one time, she got better as she got older, but sometimes, like, I'll see a dark-skinned person that don't look very healthy, I should say, and I can hear her. And I'd be like, "Mom, stop, I don't want to hear her." I'm laughing by myself, because I know, and I tell people, I don't know if it's because I know what she would be thinking, or she would tell me, or if I actually hear her saying.
I mean,
oh my God.
You and Nani, like, you guys were so close. I know she was your mother, but she was also like your sister, especially when
You're my best friend.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is next to no memories I have of you two not together. So,
yeah.
like, of course you're gonna know how she's thinking and how she's feeling, and of course we're believers. Of course, you still have that connection, and
right.
I know you and Dad both live in my head all the time, and even with Nani and Papa too. Like, almost every decision I make, for that brief second, I hear all four of you yell at me, like, "Don't touch that, don't do that." And there's a lot of don'ts, like,
yeah.
I probably shouldn't do that. Now, when it comes to talking and all the crap talking I do, that's also from you guys. So, I absolutely love it. Like, growing up with the way we did and how we did, it's hard to put this out in words. Like, there's so much more emotion and so much more feelings than me and you can both ever describe to everybody that
our
will
family
listen
was
to this.
just so close that we all grew up together. We all learned things together, as in, like your cousins and aunts and uncles.
Right.
It's like we were always together.
Right.
So I think we always have that special connection, even though nowadays we don't see as much as we would love to see each other. We still have that connection that when we do get together, it's just like, I just saw you, an hour ago.
Yeah.
And we just keep.
I love how
going.
you said
We
that.
don't fight,
Right. And then, like, our cousin up in Texas, like, I haven't seen him for 10 plus years. The last time I saw him was at Antonio's wedding, and then we went up there and we started talking like we never stopped talking. And his daughter kind of looks at me and looks at him, and she's like, "What? You guys just saw each other? Like, you're like in a full conversation?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're just leaving where we left off." And she's like confused about it, and just like you explained it, is the way he explained it. Is just like you can be gone and not see each other for years, but when you're back together, it's like you never left. So.
Yeah.
And so kind of going right back into it, talking with friends, and you know me, I just like everybody else, a majority of the rest of our family is, I talk to so many people, and I have a lot of friend connections, and it blows my mind on how other families, seeing other families. There's so many times growing up, a lot of my close friends, they loved the household that we had so much. They would come over just whenever, even if I wasn't there. They would come over to hang out. Not just with me, because they didn't feel like they were my friend. They felt like they were part of the family, and they were welcome to.
Yeah.
And
I can't tell you how many of your friends, their uncles, cousins, their friends came and stayed at our house just till everybody got home. They would just come and hang out, and we would just sit and talk. It was like a family, and I always think that I always fed everybody. We didn't have much money back then,
right.
But I always had food to feed everybody.
Right.
Always. So that was always like the special. I felt a special bond that I had with everybody.
Mm-hmm. So. It's, and the whole reason talking about a lot of this is just to show on how much love was in this house. Never did I ever feel like any of these experiences that any one of us had. It never felt any malice, any harm, It didn't feel demonic.
Right.
If anything, the positive energy that we constantly give to everybody. We are a house of the Lord. And it just felt like it was a safe place for whatever.
Right. And saying that, and I was thinking about this last night of what we were going to talk about. I really feel like when you have spirits in your house, when you accept them, and you don't feel like, oh my God, the light's blinking, it's an evil spirit, that drives me crazy, because you don't know what kind of spirit it is. So of course they're going to be mean to you if you're treating them mean,
It could be.
You accept it. Yeah, to me it's like you have to accept them, just like they have to accept you, because you're living in their space.
Right.
We're not living, they're not in our space. We're living in their space.
And I'm not saying this is what it is either, just because most of the time it's nothing. Most of the time it's just faulty wiring.
Right.
Air ducts expanding and compressing.
Ours is our light bulbs are going out. That's what I say.
Right.
just getting that last.
So a lot of people tend to yell and say, "Oh, it's this," but that, in the same sense, is inviting something. Then it could become something. But as soon as you invite something, that's why we don't play with Ouija boards. We don't do seances or anything, because that's just inviting evil spirits over. and you definitely wouldn't want that.
And don't get me wrong, I don't believe. It's not that I don't believe in evil spirits. I don't think any evil spirits will bother you unless you
Invite
ask
it,
for it.
right?
Yeah.
As soon as you
There has
invite
to
it
be
in,
something that you're doing. Yeah.
and
So
that's why
no.
I really want to beat the path of like this house was nothing but positivity. Like
Right.
there is no place
And I
on the
think
planet.
ghosts follow you. I don't think that they are confined to that one area. I really think, like, if when you move, if they get attached to you, they're gonna move with you. As in, not like I said, not like the evil spirits that you see on TV or they follow me to this house. I think they just because they like you, and they're gonna like. But in that sense, also, and everybody laughs at me. But when I lived in Aurora, I could swear I had a ghost dog. It was a German Shepherd, and I had my two weenie dogs. But the German Shepherd would always sit next to me, and I could see him through the side of my eye. But if I turned like this, he wouldn't be there. But if I'm just looking, watching TV or whatever, I could see him sitting there next to me. And if somebody came pounding on the door, he'd be at the door. He'd be the first one to greet somebody, and sometimes people would say, "Oh, I thought I saw a big dog," and I'm like, "No, I just had my weenie dogs. I never said nothing,
Right.
But
Didn't want to sound crazier than you already are.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I have my ghost dog, so I believe, I like I said, I totally believe in all spirits, and I believe that when you accept them, they're going to accept you, know.
Absolutely crazy. Like, there's even definitely more stories we can definitely get into. Another big story that happened that I can think about that happened in my life at this old house is, I want to say I was around 12, 13. You and Dad and Nani and Pompo went out to bingo. I didn't want to go bingo because it was super boring, And I want to say you took my two little sisters with you. From what I can remember, my older sister off either with a cousin or one of her friends' house. My uncle, who was still living in the house at the time, he was at work, so I was like home alone. Next door, obviously we lived on one side. I don't even think we lived on next door at that time. I think we moved out.
Not when you're a teenager, yeah.
Yeah. So on the other side, though, was still my auntie's house, but nobody was over there either, because I want to say she went to bingo too, but I remember that house was completely empty too. So I remember sitting in the front room watching TV. I want to say I was like watching Beavis and Butthead or Ren and Stimpy, something stupid. And then just sitting down, and then right above me, which was my uncle's room, was directly above the front room. I remember hearing footsteps, and I was like, "Oh, Uncle's home. I want to go hang out with him because I'm bored." So I would run through, and to paint a picture, so it was the front room, dining room, kitchen, and that's where the stairs, and the stairs went kind of up and then looped around and then finished going back up to the upstairs. And the upstairs was, easiest way to explain the upstairs was kind of like a cross. So it was like a long room, then two side rooms, and those parts were all open. There's no doors there. Then Uncle's room, which had the only door, and then that was a room. And that's the part that was above the front room. And I went up there. His door was open. You can see straight across the, all of it, and there was nobody there. And I remember going into his room and thinking, because, we like to mess with each other a lot.
Right.
And I'm like, where is he? He's hiding. I remember looking around through everything, checking the cupboards. As soon as you leave the room, he had his TV and stuff. Then there was an extra bed on the other side, and then that first room there was a bed also. There was nobody there, and I was like, huh. I thought I could have sworn I heard somebody up here. And so I remember going back downstairs. I remember making sure the back door was locked and everything, just because now I'm starting to get freaked out. And it was, if I remember right, the back door didn't even have a lock. It was just a little latch, that lock the back door that, you know, anybody could push open if they just tried hard enough.
Yeah.
So I remember going back down and sitting down watching cartoons. As I'm sitting there again, I hear right above me footsteps, and they're heavy. They're thump, thump, thump. And so, you know, and I'm like following them. So I'm in the front room. I'm following each step, and it's going into the dining room, then going into the kitchen, and the thumps end right there. That's where, you know, it's like, okay, so he has to be right there. So I remember running back upstairs, nothing. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And now I'm starting to get freaked out. So I go to the stairs. I'm like, my whole body's on the stairs. And I put my head down, and I can see, you know, along the floor, and I can see along the whole back, the whole upstairs. And then I hear it again, just thump, thump, and it's coming closer. And I'm like, what am I hearing? Like, I don't see nothing. And then, like, and I'm starting to freak myself out even more. And I know, you know, of course, you're hearing something, and everything's going crazy.
Imagination's just going crazy.
Yeah, and my heart rate is, you know, pounding. It's probably what I'm hearing. And, you know, and then finally it like stops right in front of me, and I'm like, okay, like this is getting weird. I go back downstairs, and as soon as I go to the kitchen, I hear it above me, and I take a step forward, don't, and I go into the kitchen, and as I'm walking to the kitchen, I hear it above me again, dun, 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 all the way up to the front room. And I remember saying, okay, I don't know what the hell you are, the house is yours. And I went outside, I closed the door, and I rode my bike around the block for felt like forever until somebody finally came home. And I don't remember if I ever told anybody like what I
think you told me, because I kind of remember you saying I was going to stay in the house until somebody got home.
Oh man, I remember how tired I was too, because like it felt like an eternity before anyone came home. Like, and I didn't know what to do, because like I wanted, you know what? I even remember riding my bike to Dad's Tio and Tia house to see if anybody was over there, and nobody was there. And you know, they lived like maybe 6 blocks down the way. Yeah. It wasn't far away. And then, you know, there's still daylight outside too. Like you said, like the stuff that happens doesn't mean it happens at night. Like it's not a reason for all things happen at night. It's just, I don't know how I felt about it. Like that freaked me out so bad, because like it felt like it was, I don't want to say taunting me, but it was like messing with me. Like it knew where I was, and you know, and it totally freaked me out. And then again, this isn't much longer. I had a friend named Marcus, and you know, I never had real many friends sleep over, because I would always tell them the ghost stories, and no one would ever want to come over. And he was like the first friend who came over to sleep over. We were upstairs playing like Resident Evil 2, and because my uncle had the PlayStation, you know, we're having a blast, having a good time. And then he's like, oh, I'm going downstairs to get something to drink. Do you want anything? I was like, yeah, get me, you know, soda. And he goes downstairs, and then all of a sudden, like, I hear something fall, and then he's running back up the stairs. He is a very pale person, and like even saying that, he was white as a ghost. His eyes are all big, and you know, he had those blue greenish eyes, and he's just looking at me, and he's like, we're home alone, right? And I'm like, yeah. I think I want to say everybody was out doing bingo again.
Or doing something anyway.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, it's just me and you tonight. And he's like, there's somebody downstairs. And I'm like, what do you mean there's somebody downstairs? He's like, I don't know. I went downstairs, and as soon as I got to the bottom step, I just saw a pair of legs walk across from the back room to the dining room. I thought it was your grandpa because it had cowboy boots on. And I'm like, you're messing with me. Like, I told you all the stories. You're just trying to freak me out. And he sits down and he's like, I'm not playing with you. I just saw something and I don't know what to do. Like I need to go pee really bad, but I'm too afraid to go downstairs to the bathroom. And I'm like, are you being for real right now? He goes, can you go downstairs with me? I'm like, yeah. So we went downstairs. We turned on every light, looking around. And I'm like, are you being serious? Like, dude, are you messing with me? And he goes, I don't know what I saw. Maybe I'm just freaking out. We're playing scary video games, and we're trying to put logic to it. So I'm like, okay, let's recreate it real quick. So I remember going to grab a pair of Pompo's boots, and I put them on, and then, we turned the lights back off, and I walk across, and he's like, it looked like that, but it didn't. It was just darker. And I'm like, we can't make it any darker in here, And he goes, I don't understand it. Like, we couldn't recreate it to the way he felt it, But he's like, but I hear, of course, the boots have the heel and stuff, so you can hear me click, 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 click. He's like, I didn't hear anything. And I'm like, well, shit, dude, now I'm scared, I want to say we had every light turned on, and then we went back upstairs, and I remember Pompo yelling at me, like, why is every light on? And I'm like, we saw something. And I'm like ashamed because describe my Pompo, he is like one of the last real cowboys on the planet. Like, he is the hardest MFer around. Like, no one has spanked me as many times as he spanked me.
He was very, I don't want to say serious, but real stern, like,
right.
You did this, you worked hard, and, you play after, there's
right.
always,
get your stuff done.
The matter.
But then he didn't want to hear excuses or, stories or anything like that. And it's like, so what? You saw a ghost.
And he would not say anything about the ghost stories. Like, my mom would tell him about the ashtray stuff, and he would just blow it off.
Right.
He would never, ever admit there was anything like that.
So,
but that's the way he was raised, though.
Not saying that, he was a very loving man. Like, he cared so much, but he wasn't the type of person to baby anybody,
Right.
I wanted something. I wanted a toy or something. Then he's like, okay, go out and make the money. I'm like, I don't know how to make money. I'm like 5, and he's like, go around. I think he gave me like 10 trash bags, and he's like, fill these up with every tin can you possibly can. And I remember going around everywhere where we live, for hours, filling up these trash bags to fill them up with tin cans, aluminum, and then he would drive me down to the place. We'd get it, and he's like, "Okay, here's what you made," and I'd be like, "That's it?" Like, I think I made like $1, and he's like, "Well, I'll do it again," And then that's what got my worth ethic going. It's like, if I want something, okay, let's figure it out, let's get it done, and I pretty much have everything I possibly want now. That's something that I try to teach my kids. I try to teach my friends, and everybody that I meet is like, anything's possible. You just gotta push for it. How bad do you really want this? But okay, so that was one time there. Now I want to flash forward over all the way into my current house that I am currently living in. So now I'm a dad of 3 girls. I have an amazing wife who's always in chat, Miss Lady Ray, who is constantly keeping an eye on all you guys in chat and making sure you know who you are. And so I don't want to say I've ever had any other paranormal experience from that time in Nani's house until this house right here. There is my daughters will always be saying, there's like a little boy in the house. And I'm like, guys, stop it. You're inviting spirits. And I'm not saying I didn't believe them or anything, but again, I don't want to invite anything that I don't need to. And my daughters, especially my two older girls, they're storytellers. They like to tell stories. They like to listen and then, tell things. There was a time that you and Dad were over here and we were watching, I want to say we were watching like WrestleMania or something, or a UFC, something like that. And we're in the basement. And I'm in my chair, and from where I was sitting, I can see directly up the stairway because we're in the basement. And all of us were downstairs. And as I'm leaning back in the chair talking with you guys, I looked up the stairs, and what I saw in that moment was a little head looking down at me. And it was all what it really looked like. It looked like my daughter had this sugar skull, black and white sugar skull mask. It was really pretty. We don't have it anymore. I'd love to show you guys it, but eventually it got destroyed and we had to throw it away. But that's what it looked like to me in that brief instant. So it was a little head, just the head peering downstairs, looking at me, and I could see, eyes, like human eyes, this mask, and almost a little bit of a neck. And then when I looked up, it like pulled away. And I remember looking at you and Dad, and I'm talking to them, and I didn't put nothing to it because I was thinking it was one of the kids. But then I'm like, wait a minute, all the kids are down here. And then my thought right away wasn't ghost, because it looked like a little kid to me. I'm like, I think a kid just walked into the house, And because at the time when we first moved in here, our street was just littered with a bunch of kids. And so I'm like, oh, one of them came in. The front door had a habit, if you didn't push it closed all the way, it would just open. And I remember running upstairs, thinking somebody came in. And you and Dad were like, what the heck's going on? And, I looked in through everyone's room, checked the front door was locked. Checked the back door was locked. Checked the kids' room, checked my room, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What did I see? And then I remember going downstairs, or Dad was already coming upstairs. He's like, what happened? What's going on? And I'm like, I thought I just saw a little kid. And, I remember like, did I see? What did I see? And couldn't be my hair's fault because I used to keep my head shaved all the time. I only recently started growing my hair out. Leaning back, I don't even know if I was wearing regular reading glasses yet, because that was relatively new also. But if that doesn't really matter. But that doesn't really explain what I saw in that brief second.
I remember that.
Right. And that tripped me out. Then Rachel has been telling me she keeps hearing somebody whispering in her ear. And then it just happened again not too long ago. She was taking a shower, and when she was drying her hair off, and as she's doing that and she pulls the towel down and standing back up, she hears psst, directly into her ear. And I'm like, well, it could have been the towel, right? You could have just been wearing it and then you just drug the towel. And she's like, no, the towel was already down. It was when I was shaking my hair out. And I was like, could be nothing.
I don't know.
Could be nothing. And now, another thing, this is the last thing I have, is in this room, in this recording setup that I have right here, right now. So I every once in a while I belong to a Discord server that I'm a mod to, and Super Cringe Roleplay. So like and subscribe, those bad boys. We host a movie night every once in a while. We try to do it once a month, something for the community, because this is a paid for a server, so you can't just not just random people can join. These are people that help support them, and then they get to talk with the cast and crew and everything. So I'm setting up a movie for everybody, kind of like this, right? So I open up the server where everybody can jump into the server and start talking, and then the movie will play on the server, and then we laugh together, commenting, making jokes and stuff as we watch the movie, just to give you an idea of what this is. So I'm setting up the movie and everything, and as I'm setting up everything, I'm by myself. You can see when people join the server, right? So as I'm sitting here, making sure everything's working correctly, all of a sudden I hear, I'm not sure if you can hear this, but all of a sudden I hear this tapping sound, right? And at first I thought it was the door, and the girls tend to knock or tap on the door either to get my attention or to try to mess with me, because I play a lot of scary video games that I stream. So, even Ray likes to mess with me sometimes, because, I tend to jump real easy. So I hear this tapping, and I'm like, come in, and, still messing with things. And then I hear the tapping again. I'm like, come in. And then I'm like, guys, quit messing around. So I get up and I open the door, and of course nobody is in front of the door. As I'm standing up at the door, I hear it again. It's not coming from the door. It's coming from the little window that's behind me. And I'm like, what the hell? Why? That's really elaborate way to mess with me, to go outside and tap on this little window. And I'm like, I'm yelling. I'm like, you guys know there's spiders down there, right? Like, typically a black widow lives in there every summer. Like, I wouldn't put my hand down there. And so I'm kind of looking through the window. It's dark outside, so like shining a flashlight is completely worthless. It's just reflecting off the window. So again, the server and everything is up. People can join in on it, right? So I take my headset off. I go outside. I start thinking, oh, I bet you a bird got stuck in there, or a lizard. That happens a lot over here. So I'm like, I'll go get the bird out, or let the lizard out, because they'll be stuck down there and die. So I go down. I walk all the way upstairs, because I'm in the basement. I go outside. I dig around, and it's pretty clean because I just cleaned it not too long ago. There's no bird. I don't see any traces of a lizard digging a little tunnel or anything like that. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And like, maybe a kid was messing with it, or maybe I heard a popping outside. I'm trying to put logic to it, right? So I'm done with that. I come back downstairs. I put my headset in. I see one person has joined so far, and we're just gonna call him Will. And I'm like, hey, Will, what's up, man? And he goes, oh, I can hear you. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, yeah? He's like, yeah, you sound a lot better. And I'm like, what do you mean I sound a lot better? He's like, whatever you were saying before, I couldn't understand what you were saying. And I'm like, I wasn't saying anything before. I was outside. And he goes, what? And he goes, no. Like, I was talking to you and asking questions, and when you talk, a little green, like, circle goes around your name to let everyone know, hey, this person's talking. Like, every time I talk to you, I'd kind of hear you respond, but I couldn't understand what you're saying, and the green light was showing that you're talking. I'm like, okay, stop. Let's rewind. Since you've been on, I've been outside, like outside of my house. He goes, what? He's like, then who was I talking to? I'm like, there's nobody in here, like, everybody is upstairs. He goes, no, I was talking to you. I go by Hero. I go, what's up, Hero? And then I hear, and he's like, oh, I can't understand you. What was that? And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me right now? He goes, no, that's why I was telling you that I can understand you now. And I'm like, dude, there's absolutely no way that you heard anybody talking. My father-in-law is in the next room over. I'm right away thinking, oh, maybe he just heard him talking, or he heard his TV, because he tends to listen to his TV real loud. But he wasn't here that day. So he was out hanging out with his friends. And, again, my daughters and Lady Ray, they were upstairs. And I'm like, wow, that's something I don't want to hear right now after investigating a strange sound. So that is every story I can think of that has happened to me, and it's just weird because I have had such a big gap of nothing, and then when I moved in, my own daughter started seeing things, my own, telling me, and then I saw the one thing, and then this tapping, and then that from seeing that kid that one time until right now, that's almost 8 years apart.
That's crazy. Crazy.
I don't know. I'm not saying it was anything. It could have been 100 things. He could have heard, this isn't the most insulated room. So he could have heard my daughters playing and laughing from upstairs. That can echo. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say. I'm not saying anything's true, but it's just a very strange and weird coincidence.
Well, another thing that happened to us when we lived in Aurora, my oldest daughter lived with us, and she lived in the basement. Well, we would be downstairs, and we'd hear people running upstairs, but everybody would be downstairs because we'd be the same thing, watching wrestling or UFC or whatever when we'd all get together. So we'd go check. Nope, there's nothing. Oh, as in Aurora, you kept your doors locked, so it wasn't like nobody could come in. Well, one time she was downstairs cleaning, and everybody was at work. It was just me and her home, and she's like, "Mom, come here." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "My Pepsi can just went across the coffee table." I'm like, "Shut up." And she goes, "No, watch." So she would put the coffee can on one side of the coffee table, and it would just move all the way across. It was a glass table. There's nothing wet. I felt it, to see there's something that it could be slides on, because if it's wet, it'll follow the stream. Nothing. But the cat would just move across the table by itself. And we were like, what the heck? So we're kind of playing with it for no bit. I went back upstairs. But that house was crazy too. We were another night, I kept hearing the kids pounding on the pipes. And we're trying to sleep. So finally I text her, and I tell her, "Crystal, tell the kids to quit hitting the pipes. We're trying to sleep." She's like, "Mom, I thought that was you guys." She's like, "I was just going to text you the same thing. Why are you guys hitting the pipes for?" So we don't know what the heck that was, We're blaming each other. But yeah, that house was pretty. Sometimes crazy things would happen in that house too. But
absolutely
those were the
wild.
two crazy things, yeah.
Well, I think this is probably a great place to end it. There are a few more stories I know that I would like to talk to you about, but we are already, pretty long into this, and it's going to be fun compiling it all together and making little shorts out of it. It's, that's going to be the fun part. But just some ideas that, from other stories that you've told me that I'm going to just barely touch on, but we'll talk about hopefully another time later, because there's a house that you guys... What was that?
We could go back and go into more detail of more things
definitely
later as we remember them. And
so there's a bridge that an old man that would be in the distance, but then he'd be real close. I remember that. There was an abandoned house that you would see shadows in. What was the other
there's
one?
a whole bit.
Right, but I mostly wanted to stay focused especially on Nani's house, on the beacon that it was.
Now the house was blessed, by the way. Just so you know, if anybody ever wondered, when they moved in, they did have the house blessed, and they had it blessed a few years later again because of the crazy stuff that was happening. But
and then Nani always blessed anything. I remember going up to her and having her do that for me all the time. The house was eventually, what was it, in about 2000, 2001 when we eventually tore the house down because of asbestos, right?
Right.
I do remember a quick story that him and his friend went back there when it was all torn down, and then a bunch of bugs and worms were crawling out of the ground. I remember you telling me that was crazy.
And the new house has more stories, which we'll get into that later too.
Are you serious? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So we put a modular house where the old house used to be, but there's still things are happening.
A funny quick story. I remember scaring Nani in the new house. In high school, we had to make masks, and me being deranged, I made like a leather face mask that came out really cool, and she was. I don't think she was home alone. She's never home alone, but she was sitting down watching her show on TV, and I told Rachel, like, oh, let's scare Nani, you know. And then she was a pranker too. She would scare the crap out of us also. So I put Ray on my shoulders, and then she has the mask on, you know, and we're tapping the window, and the way Nani is she has to investigate. And so we're off to the side of the window, and then as soon as she was looking around, I jumped in front, and there's just a mask, and I remember, ah! And there's a rose bush that's right in front of that window, and those thorns were the worst. They'd slice you open, and we're laughing, and then I got caught up in it, and I remember, trying to put Ray down gently, and me and her go inside, and she was so mad at us. She's like, oh, you guys always give me a heart attack.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I mean, God, just that whole area and everything. I haven't been back over there in a few years. But there's days, and Rachel knows, like, if I'm taking a nap or if I wake up a certain way out of bed, like, she'll just say, Matt, you're not at your nanny's house, you're home. And like, because I remember there's just times where
we spent so many years there.
Right. Like, as I'm waking up, I think I'm just sleeping on the couch, you know, and my Pompo is one of those guys that were, at like 4 a.m. he's in the kitchen washing dishes, scraping pans, and as I'm waking up, like, if I hear anything that kind of reminds me of it, it just puts me right back in that house like I never left. And like you said, I spent so much time there. It's just forever, in my brain. But yeah, that's probably where we'll call it tonight. And don't go anywhere. We are going to be live right after this to take any comments or questions that you guys have. Hopefully when this premieres, Mama, you can join us, and because I'm sure people are going to want to ask you some questions and everything too. This is a different format that we're trying. We are going to record the interview. That way we don't have any distractions from chat and anything, and we can really deep dive on the stories. So please let me know how you guys like this, and then we'll we'll go live with chat and everything, and we'll read those out and answer anybody's questions in it. But how do you feel about this? Like, how this is? I know you've always told stories, but we've never sat down to record it.
That was great. I loved it. Yeah.
Cool.
Like I said, I kept remembering more things coming into my mind the more I talk. So.
I know, and like when we first started, like, you're blaring through story after story, and I'm like, this is only gonna last like 30 minutes.
But there's so many.
But yeah, we've had so many, and like so Mama, I love you. Thank you for joining me with this interview. I can't wait to share this with everyone. And yeah, any last words? Do you want anybody, do you have a following that you want people to follow you on? The TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebooks? No, you want to just be left alone?
If you want to. I don't even know what one of these are.
Which is fine. If you guys follow me, you'll probably see her. She tends to comment on everything. So again, I know I run my mouth, and I get it from my mom and dad. They're both big talkers, and
we like to have fun.
We do. So we never say or do anything out of malintent. We poke each other, and like a lot of the big reasons why is like, I want you, if I make fun of you, give me the comeback. So when somebody does come at you, you know how to defend yourself, right?
Yep.
So, but then again, we do that, and then we like, I want to say, how many bullies did I beat up growing up, and they end up becoming my friend?
Right.
So,
Like that, so.
yeah, and yeah, definitely got that from Dad. But yeah,
Our sarcasm runs all over the family.
So much sarcasm. Like, it's just, I try as an adult not to be sarcastic, but it's just embedded in me.
Yeah, so. I know.
Okay, well,
cool. Well,
this is where we'll end it. I'll see you guys here in a second, and we'll start taking your live questions. Signing off.
Bye-bye.
Hello. Can you hear me? Good. You look great. Look wonderful. I know. I see you. I saw you running through everything. I had you on silent, and I had me on silent because I didn't want to talk over the video. The video just ended, and yeah, no, everyone got to see and hear. Like rewatching it, I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, I could have edited that better. Like I need to get the timing down still. But a little nasally, a little congested there. You just got back from a softball game, right? And I mean, it was all cold in this room, but now that my computer's on, my computer's like a little heater, so now it's getting pretty warm in here. But yep. I know you got to see the ending to everything, and but I think it came out great. Oh, nobody can hear you. Dang it. Oh wait. How about now? Can you guys hear it now? I turned off the speaker because we had that echo that was weird. Mama, give me a mic check.
Mic check. Test one. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Got it.
I think they got it. Cool. So, yeah. I mean, just re-listening to all of the stories again and going through it all again, like, it just blows my mind on how many stories, and there's so many more. So, there's from my uncle who texted me, and then you saying Angel, she has even more stories, and just my family alone, we could probably get like a year's worth of different stories. From
there was
this house.
Halloween stories
Right?
earlier, so I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and over Easter weekend and seeing everybody, because now that everybody's kind of watching this and seeing what I'm trying to do, the big thing that is very similar almost across the board between all of us is there's almost a little boy in everybody's house that follows. And I like re-listening to it and re-going through it. I'm not saying this is what it is, but I think Andy the Ghost has been following all of us to everybody's house.
I think he does. I think he's part of the family.
Right? And the biggest thing that just drives me crazy of re-listening through it, and I was thinking this during the editing part, you have the family, the man, the wife, and the kid, and there's multiple times that one of us has seen something. The wife barely anything, more of sounds. The kid definitely, and the man. Oh no, we already go breaking into a second advertisement. So we got our first question: who's your favorite child, and why is it me? Oh, everyone knows I'm the favorite.
Let me tell you this. I have my favorite daughter, who's my oldest daughter. I have my favorite middle child, which is my middle child. I got my favorite baby, which is my baby. And then I always got my favorite son. So, There you go.
Yeah. They all know I'm the favorite, so it doesn't matter. Oh, man. But, so, again, especially with the man, the guy's like, that's something you saw multiple times,
More than once, yes.
then going into me and then everybody who slept walked, we all saw a man, and even sister who's in the chat, and saying that that weird poltergeist looking dude,
Yeah.
and it's something that
I forgot about him till Angel was talking about him earlier, and I was like, oh, I forgot that one.
right. No, yeah. See, they're fighting in chat on who's the favorite.
Oh, shoot.
It's me, guys. Sorry, don't even try. But like that, it just drives me crazy on that. And then again with Andy, like there's for the longest time I kind of forgot about the whole Andy the ghost until you brought it up. And as soon as you brought it up, it all came back to me. And then thinking about like the way he would prank and everything. It's very, very similar to the things going on right now in my life.
Yeah, because it was more like a game for them, for the little boy, like little things he would do. It was like just like what kids would do. Play around, goof around, tap you on your shoulder, or
right,
pull
whisper,
your hair, or whispering,
tapping on the window behind me, maybe, or then talking with Angel and Jimmy. And the thing is, so I haven't told Jimmy like that story that's been happening in my house, and then he tells me almost word for word, of what he experienced. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's what happened to me. I never told you this story, and I know he hasn't watched any of my streams, so and he's explaining like what I saw, but at his house. And it is just like the most wildest thing.
It's crazy.
Oh, and then there's Joker Ann, Miss. That is.
Hi, Miss Joker Ann.
But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, now's the time to ask. I was trying to think of more questions, but man, like we did a pretty good job of answering a lot. Do you all think you have call abilities to see or feel things like spirits has a genetic component? I mean, maybe something like I can't help but. So, Chris, real quick, you said there was something that you called like for the psychic. I freaking wrote it down and I forgot where I wrote it down. Let me see. I never heard of it before. What was it? But it kind of sounded like you're able to feel emotions, like type of psychic.
Yeah.
Oh, empath. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Empath.
Like empathy.
Yeah, like empathy. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's kind of like that.
So like honestly, once he said that, yeah.
It's not making more sense. I never thought about it like that, but.
Am I hearing myself? Wait, check. Check 1, 2. I swear I'm hearing like a and while I'm talking, it's freaking myself out. I know it's probably your phone picking up my audio and it's interrupting me. And
because I don't hear nothing. So
I'm not sure if you guys can hear it on chat, but it's creeping me the freak out. Just told the whole bunch of things. No, the house is not standing anymore. I was talking about in the story that when after they knocked down the house, a bunch of like bugs and worms and stuff were coming out of it. My uncle and his friends went over there to where it was all destroyed, and it was the saddest thing ever to watch. I don't think I was there to watch it. I think I was at school, but like I think when I remember leaving to school, seeing it, and when I came back, it was gone.
Yeah. I know on some of the pictures, the album of the house pictures that your uncle has, there's one where it looks like 3 clouds coming out from on top of the house when they're knocking it down. Mm-hmm. And we thought maybe that was the spirits coming out, the 3 spirits.
The 3 spirits.
But guess we can't find that picture no more.
Of course.
I don't know. We went through it.
We lost it in the fire.
Yeah.
Chris kind of gives a better explanation of the empath. You can tune into other people's feelings or pain, possibly spirits too.
That's kind of like how I feel. It's like I said, when somebody's in pain, except when I'm close to, sometimes it's even like just somebody that I happen to be talking to, and they're explaining it, and I'm like, oh, is it like this? So
Uh,
yeah, I guess that's interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Riss was saying that herself and other friends have also saw the little boy in the upper window. So it wasn't just one friend, and also our cousin Mike, whose friends have seen it. So like again, there's just so many stories coming from so many different people's angles too. I don't want to say it was like a mass. Go ahead.
Sorry, because I posted the house picture on Facebook, and because that house was scary.
Right.
So, it's crazy because they would just be there to visit for a little bit. But a lot of people said they always thought it was scary, or they saw things in that house.
Right.
So that was fun to see, to remember those too.
And for me, again, nothing ever felt threatening. Like even
Right.
now, I've never felt a threatening presence before. And I don't think anybody really who went into the house felt something threatening other than the unknown. And the unknown is just so scary. Like, we grew up with it, so we were kind of used to it. Like, we're like, it's just this. Like, either, you get scared and be scared all night, or be like, whatever, it's going to leave you alone and go to sleep.
Yeah, well, and like you said, that we all grew up in that house, so we just thought that was normal.
Right.
It was a normal thing for us to see or hear things, and the first time you see it, of course, it's scary, because you're like, wait, but then after a while, you see it and you just keep doing what you're doing because it's always been there.
Yeah, no, Riss says they wouldn't do anything, even if Uncle kicked them. and then our oldest Uncle Joe, Jojo, he would literally just walk them across the street, and like,
Yeah.
is talking again with Auntie Tina and stuff. Like, there's a quick story I want to say about her real quick, but she would laugh and be like, yeah, he used to walk the ghost across the street, and then weird shit would happen. And then her or Nani would have to walk the spirit back, and play that whole pretend imaginary friend, and that's the way they would get the weird things to stop. It was like,
Yeah.
what a game of tag of an entity, supposedly, And now that I hate to say this, but I'm starting to really feel like it's something that it's following all of us kids now that grew up with, and because it's just too real that again that they're telling me a story that I didn't tell them, and it's almost word for word, especially with the little boy peeking around the corner, or the whispers and whatnot. Do you guys think spirits are tethered to specific places or people, or do they do it by choice? So that's kind of going into this whole Andy the Ghost thing right now. It's so weird because it kind of feels tethered, but it's able to like jump from family to family almost. I'm not saying that's what it is, but this weekend, and talking to everybody about it, Uncle Greg's kids, they kind of told me just a little bit. I didn't get to talk to them that much. Then Angel, and even Jeremy, who does not admit that ghosts are real. Like, he's totally against it, but he's like, well, something weird happened. I'm not saying that's what it is. It's just something weird I saw.
Yeah.
He was telling me that at his house, him and his son, who was about 4, he's 13 now, or 12 now, right? And this is when he was real little. They were sitting down on the couch watching TV, and then all of a sudden, like, something walked past them, and he's like, and then Joe was just gone, and he's like, the hell? And then he asked his son, like, did you see that? And he goes, that guy? He goes, yeah. And then he's like, and got up, looked around, didn't see nothing. And this is Jared. He is super like, no, it's not real, not happening. Yeah. But this one thing that was so real to him, he was able to say, I don't know what it was. It does sound like someone else is trying to talk. Yeah, you hear that, right? That's so weird. I don't know why the audio started doing that. I think it's my mom picking up my voice, and then it's replaying back through. That's because it's clearly, like a few seconds off saying the same thing that I'm saying. Nothing spooky. Sorry, just technical things. Lady Ray says it's really weird right now. You're talking and I know it's your audio, but it almost sounds like someone is trying to talk through the mic with you. Yeah, see, that's what it is. I know. I set it up that way to be extra spooky. I shouldn't have gave it.
Right.
Riss says
when I talk.
no. Well, you know what? Yeah, as I'm talking, go ahead and talk, and as you talk, then that's when it bleeds through. That's totally what it is. So
I'll tell you a story real quick. I lived in apartments right by Centennial, and me and Dad were sitting on the couch, and we saw like a black man walk in, and we both looked at him, and he walked to the two bedrooms, and we looked at each other like, what the heck? So we got up and we followed, and there's nobody there. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, did you just see somebody walk in the house? And he's like, yeah. But, he's like, there's nobody there.
was this at the Raintree Apartments?
No, right by Centennial.
Oh, okay. Oh, with the little duplex apartments?
The fourplex apartment.
Yeah. So this is when I was like in high school then.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is crazy. That's creepy as hell. I remember the first time I remember catching the flu and being, I was sleeping in the front room and like I woke up like shaking and stuff. And I thought I was being possessed because I didn't know what the hell's going on. And I want to say this probably happened after that because I remember being kind of scared being there. And like I seriously thought I was possessed, and like because my body was just kind of moving on its own, doing its own thing. But now that I'm an adult, I'm pretty sure I just was super sick and having the flu, and probably almost died. But we're okay now, so don't even worry about it.
Night terrors or something.
Right. And I bet that's the biggest thing is I remember overly sweating and being like super cold, and it was horrible. Riss says. Back to the poltergeist guy. I swear he only walked on our street and then disappeared. He would scare the crap out of me and Uncle Greg. And that's another big story I know a lot of them talk about.
That poltergeist guy, he was that Tina and Angel reminding me now when they lived at the house when Drake Montour was drinking.
Oh, that's the story I wanted to say. Yes, she just retold me the story. Go ahead.
Go ahead, because I don't remember everything, but I remember that part.
Her husband was a heavy drinker, and he was in a bad place when he was with that, and she wanted to really put that part of the story out. All of a sudden, one day, she comes into the room. Her ex-husband was out on the floor, completely passed out, drunk, and there was a man. Not a ghost, not an entity, a man standing right there. And he looks at her and says, "Don't worry about him anymore. He's mine now." And the biggest thing about the whole story is his teeth. His teeth were just like, and she's trying to
like all of his teeth
all the way back. Yeah. Now here's the best part to the story. My cousin Angel, who was very little at the time, barely being able to speak, she starts crying in the other room, like bad, like crazy bad. And my auntie right away was she freaked out because of this dude who just talked to her, who doesn't look real. She runs to my cousin Ange, and then she goes, "Who? The man, teeth, man with teeth," in very little words, as she's freaked out, and she's like trying to say this man with teeth, and she grabs her, and then by the time she goes back into the front room, the whole thing's gone, and everything, and I think that's when he started cleaning up his act after, right after that, and
at least, but she was reading her book one night, and he was out drinking, he was gone. And he wasn't home for whatever reason. He might have been working. But she was reading her book, and she seen that man, like, between her and the book. And like she freaked out. She's like, "What the heck?" And she thought, I'm dreaming or something. So she put her book away and went to sleep. In the morning, Angel told her, "Who was that man?" And she was like, "What man?" She did the same thing. She goes, "The man with the teeth." So she freaked out because she thought she was sleeping the whole time.
Right.
But that
What
was the
house
second
was
time
this
she had.
in?
They lived in a little house kind of by like where Andy used to live.
Oh,
Right in
okay.
front of
Right down the
Andy.
block. Okay.
Yeah, around the corner where there's no houses now.
Right.
They knocked it down, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a big old ditch now.
And they're redoing that.
That's. I mean, I was kind of talking to you guys about my cousin and his family. Like they have some of the craziest stories that, again, like real ghost or real entities. Like when people don't say, "That's weird. I didn't say those words." It kind of sounds like whatever that voice was said, "Mom."
What?
Hold on.
Did anybody else hear it?
I don't know what this weird echo thing is going on, but it's freaking me out, man. I wonder if this is what Proto heard. Everyone says that's not me talking.
Really? And it don't happen when I talk.
No. At least I only hear it when I talk, and I'm. Great. I'm gonna have a fun time sleeping tonight. Oh God. But yeah, so I lost
How about now?
total train of thought.
Tell me, does it sound different now?
I mean, you sound a lot better. I'm gonna keep talking for right now, but I'm not hearing anything.
I just realized that I had my AirPods on, but they weren't on the thing I was listening to the phone. So that might have been the.
Yeah, see, that was just me re-talking. But that last couple sounds, that's like they said, it sounded like someone said "mom" twice. That's what interrupted me. I was like, I didn't say "mom."
Oh.
Yeah, everyone's saying they heard "mom." That is.
Oh my gosh.
Freaking scary.
They gave me I got the chills.
I wasn't ready for that at all.
It was kind of funny because
add it to the list.
Everybody calls me mom. Yeah, everybody always calls me mom. Hey mom, or like it was like Dish Mama or AT&T Mama. So I've always been mom, little mama. So that's kind of funny that that's what they hear.
No, that is yeah. I don't know what to feel about that. Like I know it's just a digital burp, but. Like but everybody else heard "mom" too, and that's what I heard. But see, I kind of poisoned your guys' mind. I said it first, and then you guys
start listening for it.
You guys heard me say that, so you automatically your brain was already tuned to that to hear "mom." That's what it is. I'm sorry, I debunked it. It's not. You guys were just hearing the echo from my mom's phone through it.
No, it's not doing it, huh?
No, it's not doing it anymore. As cool as it would be. I
don't know how come I didn't realize it wasn't on my phone. But then I started listening. I could more listening to you. I kept saying, how come you so far away? And then I was like, wait a second.
That's gonna make a great video. I can't wait to shorten it up and just to like, oh my God, we need to do a live reaction. You guys heard that voice, right? Like, what was that? That wasn't me.
We'll have to add that in.
I'll make it a thing. Demons! No. It's never nothing cool, guys. I'm sorry.
Nope.
The only...
Sorry, I had to.
When we rewatch it, we'll see the voices. Yeah, I know. I'll put the... I'll have the AI put the subtitles in, and we'll see if it picks it up. Because that'll be super crazy, right?
That would be cool, yeah, if it picks it up.
I mean, if someone helps edit it in too, but so okay, a disembodied voice is when you can actually hear it, like with your own ears. Electronic voice, EVP, is when you hear it electronically. You can't hear it with your regular ears. Because I heard it through the electronics, would that make it an EVP?
Things that make you say, No.
You just blipped out of existence and scared the shit out of me. Yeah, your screen went offline. Oh, okay, calm down, Cena. I know you just won the title.
I know you were disappointed, right?
Oh no, I'm happy. I'm so happy Cena won. I
okay.
want the era of the heel turn Cena. I want him to just be a bad guy for the rest of the year, and we'll go. What do you mean you're getting a mouse, Ray? I don't know what that means, but yeah. I mean, any questions for you? Kind of after you saw the video. Have you had time to think about it? I know we're bringing up more stories about everything.
We have,
but like,
no. I think this is my point. We had a good life. We had a life of a double world, kind of.
No, and I mean, it's still going.
What's that? Is it still doing it?
No. I mean, we're still living through weird, weird things.
Yeah.
That I can't explain.
But I think because we're more of aware of things like that because we lived it. We lived it, and then we watched all the stories and we learned how to listen for it.
Right.
So like where other people will, whatever. But like I said, the flashing light. My lights above are flashing at me. I don't believe that stuff.
Change your light bulb already. Come on.
Yeah.
It's time. But like,
watch I move to my new house and they'll start doing that and be like, there's nobody upstairs.
I didn't even think about that. And every time you move, you just have to relearn the house because houses are alive. Like, I'm not saying they have a spirit or anything like that, but they breathe. The wood changes, especially here, because like we go. It will be like today, for example. It almost hit 80 degrees, and we're already almost down to 40, and it's going to get down to the 30s. Like we have
so the expansion, the
right. The biggest gap between our temperature here that houses breathe, they flux with it. But oh no, don't give Ray any of your masks, sis. That's not what I need.
So I'm going to change stories real quick because I just want to ask you, did you see where they said the ocean has a heartbeat?
No. What?
They said that scientists have been following this and it's like a heartbeat. And they have no clue where it's coming from. It's just in the water. It's pretty cool. I want to read the whole story, but I haven't got a chance to.
Holy crap, that is crazy.
Yeah. I'll find a story, I'll share it to you.
On a very kind of similar note, but first off, did you see Pope Francis died last night?
Yeah, I did. I saw it first thing this morning.
Yeah. Now, do you know the whole thing about it, the whole end of the world with him dying?
That's the last of
the last picture mantle. Now, as cool as that would be, that's just how when was the point when they were going to stop making them? Especially back then, they'd be like, there ain't going to be this many popes. We're stopping.
You're right. Yeah. That's all I think of because I always thought I always try to think rationally.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Grandma Gara talking about that. About the Pope happening with the Pope. That was before Google and.
Oh shoot! Are you serious?
Yeah, she would always tell us when the last Pope after he dies, that's when the world ends. So I don't know.
The
all
way
we can do is see what happens.
If you for believers who are believers in the Bible and stuff. People always say we're living in end times. We've been living in end times since Jesus, resurrected. Like, this it's going to be a blink. When it does happen, it's going to happen. And don't believe in all these crazy prophecies and stuff. Because, we survived the Mayan calendar. We survived Y2K. Well, we survived the pandemic. And
you gotta tell your grandkids that you lived through the Y2K.
I know, right? I was explaining to my own kids what that is, and again, every single one of them weren't as cool as it sounded.
Yeah. There's always something. So
Yeah, there's
Just wait and see.
we when it does happen, it's not going to be a story, you know.
And we're not going to be prepared. It's
Right.
going to happen when
Right.
we least
It's not going to be in the
so.
news. It's not going to be anything like that. It's just going to be, and hopefully, we won't be here.
Hopefully it's fast because I don't want to feel pain.
No, yeah, no. We'll
Well, burn in hell for being
no, don't say that. Nope, it cannot be predicted. It will come like a thief in the night. That is correct.
Yeah. That's right.
So, don't believe any of the stories. Like, again, how cool would it be? But there is going to be no sign. So sorry for going on a tangent on that. I just thought it was funny. I can't wait to start looking up this whole heartbeat in the ocean, though. That is cool.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anything. That totally fits this.
I actually just saw it either today or yesterday. I don't know, but I don't go on Facebook that much, but I thought that was pretty awesome.
So me and Rachel, Sis asks if Nani's house was built on a graveyard. Me and Ray, oh my God, especially Ray, she digged on getting any kind of history for that house, like everything that we can possibly find, and there is nothing. The last thing we have to do is go to the library and pick up, you know, the what articles, newspaper articles, if there is any, and to bring up anything. But I doubt there's going to be anything. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like we're gonna finish the story on the history, a part of it, because, you know,
it's kind of scary though if you think about it, because that house don't have no previous history after Nani and Papa moved in. You know, it was just there.
Right.
It makes you kind of wonder, you know, if you want to get to the creepy part.
Right.
You know, why isn't there like the first owners, the people who built it?
Right. Oh,
you know, there's nothing.
Yeah, they're because we found, for when Uncle took over the house and stuff, we found all that paperwork. It went from Pompo to him, and then we cannot find when he got it. That's why we had to ask you when they purchased it, because there's no documentation of when they purchased it. So
they might not just never kept records.
Right. But that's exactly my point, is like, it wasn't important back then, you know. Okay, this person died, and people die all the time, you know. Yeah. There's no why document
like the East
it.
Coast, they have all those histories.
Mm-hmm.
But you start coming more to the West, you don't really hear that stuff. So.
And you know, this part, as I smack everything, you know, this was more the Wild West, you know. It just took us longer to get to that point of keeping history and everything.
I don't know if you guys can hear like a squeak behind me, but I think Havana's trying to come in the house, in my room. She's crying at the door.
Oh. Go grab her real quick. Everybody would love to see her.
Let me see. Well, don't look at the background.
What does your flag say?
Oh, never mind. It's Tito.
Oh my God! Everybody will love Tito. What does it say?
Trying to get Margaritaville.
Margaritaville.
This is Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville.
I can go for a margarita right
now.
No
better. Oh, so my basket I won. I got peach brandy, so that's gonna be interesting for us to make a drink out of.
Oh yeah. I'll start looking up some recipes for you. Let's see. Chris says the heartbeat is just the Teferi from Moana. I'm not sure I pronounced that wrong, but the
what?
In the movie Moana, it was the big.
Oh, Moana.
Yeah.
That might be where they got it from.
Maybe. Sis says it would have been in the 1800s. It would be hard to trace, but I remember Nani saying that. Maybe the house could be that old.
I'm pretty sure she said it was built in 1900, but like you said, we don't got real good records of it. So.
Right. Because you said there was blueprints that was a one-story house, but like really looking at that, I don't know if it ever was. Well, at least that house. What if the records of the blueprints was the house before it?
All right.
So, and this is back then. You don't really need building permits back then. You just built your house.
Right.
Like today, oh my God, all the red tape you have to go through to build, just to do an add-on and stuff. I found out the shed that we built, we were supposed to get permission to put it there, but F them. I don't have video evidence of me saying that.
We don't have.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I live in Wyoming.
Knoxville.
Knoxville.
Well, that's why that
Knoxville, Tennessee. Actually, Knoxville, Tennessee was an awesome place to visit. Anybody who lives out there, right on. Shout out to you guys. Sis says the house was built in the 1900s, so the graveyard would have been in the 1800s. I don't think there's a graveyard.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
Like Jeremy said, it could be an Indian burial because they were all over the place. They didn't have a lot of playtimes. They didn't have one certain section. They would just bury you where you were at.
That's
you know what I mean?
Literally what I was just going to say. Like, I loved how people would say there's ancient Indian burial grounds. Vast majority. I'm not saying that's not a thing, but most of them just buried them where they lied, if they even buried them. Sometimes they didn't bury them at all.
You know, they traveled.
Yeah,
so
they moved. They didn't stay
in
one place. Right.
Yeah.
I would love to go to the family land and, with Uncle Jojo to see some of their campsites that I know he has markers over to show.
Oh, they're right there by the campground.
Nope, that's what Nani said. She said it was an Indian burial.
Oh.
I think Nani would also be kind of messing with you.
Yeah, I never heard about it, but who knows?
Do you guys have any old family heirlooms that could be possessed by a ghost or connected to them?
I do have a cake plate that I got from my mom a long time ago. That was my grandmother's. So it was actually made in either the late 1800s or early 1900s.
Right.
But I don't really see anything here in this apartment other than my dog Bonnie.
Holy crap! You know that he says that. Excuse me. I was gonna say I have nothing, but I have two things. I have Pompo's guitar, and the girls have a doll, a glass porcelain. How you say it? Porcelain.
Porcelain.
Dolls, and yeah, they're just as creepy as they sound. So I each of my daughters have one of those. Huh. I wonder if that's it. I wonder if all of us have a possessed item. That's the connection, because I'm sure Angel has something. And...
Yeah.
Oh, what guitar do you have? I have two of his guitars. I didn't know he had more than two.
Who has a guitar?
Sis says she has a guitar from Pompo also.
Oh. Cool.
Light
The
bulb.
only ones he had then.
But yeah, that would be crazy, right? Oh man, we can stay here all night talking about this. But we'll make sure to write down more stories. I think I said all the stories I wanted to say. But it just, the history just is all there, and then the fact that I can tell a story, and then one of my cousins can tell you the same story from their point of view, and how much it lines up. Like, I know none of us are lying. I know I'm not lying. And like, you just have to be there, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it is. I'm not scared.
If it's our imagination, then we all have the same imagination going on. That's all I gotta say. Right.
Because there's the whole theory of like mass hysteria, possibly some kind of fungus that hallucinogen that's there, the asbestos. But have you guys ever tried using an EMF readers? Not on. I haven't. Has Uncle or his girls ever tried?
Not that I know of.
That'd be fun to do a little
That would be.
ghost hunt in their house. I wonder if they would be down for it. We can take some EMFs, some we'll take some electronic
especially
recordings.
the basement, because
I ain't going in the basement.
That's what turns on is the basement light will turn on and that door opens to the
Ugh.
basement.
Oh, I lived in that basement and I was cool as hell for the longest time. And then it felt like when I moved out, that's when weird shit happened.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, the
But
weirdest
we'll get more
thing,
stories from them.
thinking about that, you know, the weirdest thing that ever happened down there that almost killed me is I remember I was trying to look, I was looking for something. And there was this big ass bookcase, if you remember the story or not. And I was just moving things. That thing fell on me. It knocked me out.
Yeah.
This is when I got my very first concussion. I still have like the bump on the back of my head that it, you know, permanently, you know, put into me. I remember looking for, like, I found what I was looking for, and I was like, oh, this works. And then when I turned around and I was walking away, that's when it fell on me. And I don't know how long I was down there. Pompo, you know, came down there. He's the one who helped me get out underneath it. And that thing was effing heavy. I was in high school. This was when I was like at my peak. Like I was huge, you know, I was benching a bunch and everything. And I couldn't get that thing off of me. Like it took both me and him to get it out. And he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm okay. And then Dad was driving me somewhere. I don't remember where we're going. But I remember seeing what it looked like, you know, stars. Like I remember seeing stars. It didn't really look like stars. It looked like a bunch of sperm. That's the easiest way to say it. You know, like, and I was like looking at it. I was like, Dad, I think I might be freaking out. And he's like, what? And I tell him what I see. He's like, are you high? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. Like I'm totally against it. And he's like, what happened? And I told him what happened. He's like, you have a concussion. I was like, oh. I was like, what do we do about that? He's like, just don't go to sleep. I'm like, oh shit, too late. I was already asleep. And he's like, well, you're not going to go to sleep anymore. And so I remember having to stay up like for another 5 hours. And just having the worst headache of all time. But let's see. With the old house being knocked down, there is nothing left of the house. In some pictures, I did put up a few pictures if you guys saw that to kind of give you. But you know, I don't think they were tethered to the house itself. If that is what it is.
Because we first thought it was, because we didn't hear nothing. Well,
for the longest time.
My mom said she didn't hear nothing for a long time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it started in her bathroom. I don't remember exactly what happened. Krista might remember, but I remember either the light was turning on or the water turned on. Something started happening little by little. So it was like weird.
The whole thing is weird. I don't think it was anything demons. No, definitely not.
No, it wasn't nothing evil.
Right, it was nothing evil. Besides, like, as much as we bless everything and we're not afraid of that stuff because our God's bigger. But yeah, what up, Who's Jack? Oh man, you missed a wild ride. We're almost done for the night, brother. Go back and rewatch it. We dive deep into my whole crazy story. When I started talking, I guess something was talking while I was talking. Everybody says it was saying different things. I'm gonna have to. I can't wait to rewatch this part because
I know.
It is so creepy. Like I know it was just me hearing myself through your phone, but there's a lot of parts that I was like, I didn't say that. Why? You know, it was just crazy, especially right there towards the end. That freaked us out real good. Oh, all right. We're getting ready to hit another ad already. Jesus, we've been on forever to hit 3 ads, but we will call it good there, Mom. If there's anything else you want to say your piece now.
No, nope, that I can think of.
All right, guys.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Love you all. And
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Anybody who you think they might like paranormal stuff. And then again, this isn't just
if any family members, cousins, anybody that happens to be watching, if you remember any stories, please feel free. Let us know. You know,
right?
What you remember.
Yeah, because you know we're trying to put all these puzzle pieces together. It's a lot. And if it's more than just ghosts, like I don't want to stay in the realm of just ghosts or just hauntings. There's a few friends I really would like to get on here about, some UFO stuff that they experience, and that stuff kind of really trips me out. I know
There's no such thing.
I'm with you right there. I don't think aliens or UFOs are real.
I told you my theory, right?
Yes. Space sharks, something like that, right?
The ghosts and aliens are the same people.
Okay.
They're one involved. So you see, alien, it's a spirit.
I think they're demons myself, but that's
It could be something. It could be evil spirit. It could be a happy spirit.
Right.
I don't know.
Something that Alec Jones said is like what aliens are there are just human experiments, and from reading some from human experiments after World War II, I won't get too long into it, but is some of the craziest things that I've ever read in my life.
We'll have to do another one on that.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot we can dive into it. It's haunting us from the future. Could you imagine that? There's a movie like that. The Others?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good movie. But all right, guys.
All right.
You guys have a great night, Mom. Thank you again. I'll talk to you soon. And everybody else who's still on, I appreciate you. And if, again, I'm always putting this invitation out. If there's an experience you guys want to share with everybody, hit me up. We will get it done. We will, we'll go from there, and we'll see what happens. So until then.
Go Nuggets, go Avs. Woo!
Oh, go Avs, yeah. Go Nuggets. Signing off. Love you guys.
Yeah.